Did you watch football last week? Do you feel like you know anything more than you did the week before? I kind of do, which was sort of huge for me, so I hope you're feeling the same way. This week we are talking about downs, timeouts, and positions, like I promised you we would last week. Speaking of last week, there were a couple of corrections that needed to be made. The issue was, as I am somebody who is learning about football and don't know everything about it yet, imagine that. Even like just doing the video, I still had some stuff that I sort of messed up a little teensy tiny bit. As you saw in this section of the video, we were able to correct some of it in the editing bay. However, there were a couple things that in the future, from this point forward, we're going to be calling penalties. Very apropos. Thank you very much. That was Brandon's idea. So there was a flag on the play. Last week I said the ball is snapped from the long snapper, one of those special teams guys where that's his only job. He snaps the ball, throws the ball, and then it's held on the ground by kind of anybody on the team. I said that could be anybody. It technically can. However, it isn't usually. It's oftentimes going to be either the punter, who's one of those special teams positions that we'll get to later today, or the backup quarterback. Those are the two people who usually hold it. So that was our little penalty from last week. Now we're going to get into the episode now that all the flags are off the field. See, it's like that scene in Legally Blonde where she's doing her video essay and somebody goes by and whistles at her and she goes, "Oh, objection. See, I feel completely comfortable using legal jargon in everyday speak. This is me now. Flag on the field. Penalty in motion." That's not what but you know what I mean. Let's talk downs. When a team is on offense, they get 4 downs, attempts or tries, to gain 10 yards. If they do gain the 10 yards within those 4 tries, oh my God, amazing. You get 10 more. If they do not gain those 10 yards within the 4 attempts, then they have to turn the ball over to the defense, who now becomes the offense, and they get a set of 4 downs. If the offense does complete the 4 downs and gets those 10 yards, then the line of scrimmage is reestablished in a new spot. That spot is where the player either ran out of bounds or got tackled. Now let's say the offensive team doesn't get those 10 yards in their 4 tries. There are a couple things that you can do. However, if they were to just turn the ball over, which does happen a lot, the new line of scrimmage is going to be where that old line of scrimmage was. I've now introduced something new and crazy and weird, and you're like, whoa. Sorry, you didn't say we were talking about the line of scrimmage this episode. It's gonna come up. Why is it called that? Nobody knows. But it's a funny word, and I'm happy to talk about it. The line of scrimmage is simply the imaginary line that divides the offense and defense. It's established where the ball is, so it's gonna be a little closer to the offense, but you'll see it because it's superimposed on the screen during any game that you're gonna be watching. It can be blue, it can be black, whatever, but there's always also going to be a yellow line superimposed next to it. That's going to be your first down marker. This is where the team needs to cross, or even the tiniest sliver of the ball needs to hit for that first down to be completed. Back to talking about downs. If you've ever heard somebody say the phrase 1st and 10, that's referring to downs and yards. That means it's their first attempt to get 10 yards. So with that formula, if somebody were to say 3rd and 4, that means the offense is on their 3rd attempt and they have 4 more yards to get before they reach that first down marker and can get a new set of 4 downs. How are you feeling? Let's talk timeouts. Easiest thing in the world. Finally, something that doesn't have 35,000 things I have to try and explain and try and understand myself. A timeout is generally an opportunity for a team to stop the game. Hey, I was lying to you before. It is a little bit complicated. I know, but it's fine. You're gonna understand why, because we're gonna help you. So stick with me. Because you might be thinking, okay, great. Why wouldn't a team pause the game anytime something got a little tricky for them? I think we all would want to do that. But that's why each team only gets 3 timeouts per half. Also, if you're not a very good board game player like myself, you might be like, well, cool, I'll call a timeout the second that they snap the ball, and then we can just pause and mess up their rhythm and whatever. You can't do that either. A team cannot call a timeout if the ball has been snapped. A team can only call a timeout in between plays. If you're wondering how many timeouts your team might have left, you can tell by any of the little icons that you see here. They're represented differently, but they're always going to be right around where the scores are on your screen. We are 2/3 of the way through this episode, and I'm so proud of you. I'll kill you. Brandon's here this week, and it's a lot of fun, and it's making it way easier and better to film. But I don't know if he's ready to be on camera yet. No, that's okay, honey. We are 2/3 of the way through this episode, and I'm so proud of you. You're doing great. Did I save the trickiest part for last? Of course. Let's talk positions. I think it's great to know when starting to talk about positions is that every NFL team is allowed 53 players on their roster. Now, we talked a little bit about like offense, defense, specialty teams. So each team has all of these people. They have an offensive line, a defensive line. That's what we're going to talk about right now, so don't worry about it. We're going to get more into it. But some of those positions have backups. A quarterback has a backup. You know, then there are those specialty teams like a kicker and a long snapper. Like, those don't need backups necessarily, right?
Yeah, it is just special teams.
Sorry, not specialty teams, special teams. Thank you. Like the Steelers have 53 players. However, on a play at any given time, there are only 11 players on the field. If there are more, that's a penalty. Now, I was thinking, that's insane. How can you not count? Why would there ever be more than 11 players on a field? I feel like it's not that hard to do. There are just little like instances where maybe there's simply just human error. Somebody thought they were supposed to be on the field. Somebody's still running off the field before a play starts. We'll talk about penalties later, but 11 players allowed on a field at a time. Okay, so your offensive positions. We're gonna start broad and narrow it down with positional groups. First, there's the offensive line. They are typically the 5 guys that are blocking and protecting the quarterback. We're gonna start from the center. We're gonna use my hand because this works out nicely, because that's what my honey did for me. The center snaps the ball. He is responsible for starting the play. That's kind of his main T. Like, that's what he's doing. However, he can sometimes also help the quarterback by identifying where the defensive players move and go throughout the play. On either side of the centers, let me see if I can do this with my hand. I don't want to do center. Center seems aggressive. So now there's the center. And on either side, there we go. Moving out from the center, there's going to be 2 guards, the left guard and the right guard. Appropriately called the left and right guard. These are not the most glamorous positions, sure, but they're very, very important. The left and right guards, respectively on each of their sides, are kind of in charge of like opening gaps for the ball to be run through and closing gaps so that the quarterback doesn't get tackled. You are doing so great with the offensive line. Now we are already on the outskirts of it with the left and right tackle. These are like the premier position of the offensive line because they are in charge of protecting our quarterback. Their special job is keeping the quarterback protected because the other team, the defensive team, has a couple players with the special job of sacking the quarterback. So the right and left tackle are doing a great job of keeping him safe. A lot of times the left tackles are seen as like the more important position, but that's kind of only because most quarterbacks, like most people, are right-handed. So oftentimes the quarterback is going like this, so he has this blind side to him, and that's what the left tackle is doing such a good job of protecting, but both are equally important. They're protecting our quarterback. These 5 players, the offensive line, the center, right and left guard, right and left tackle, are considered ineligible during a play. So that means that they cannot catch or advance the ball. That is left for the skill position players. These skill position players are probably the terms that you've heard more thrown around during football games. The skill positions are tight end, wide receiver, running back, and quarterback. Now let's get into what those are. Tight ends are an interesting position because they're sort of like a fake offensive lineman in the way that they can run a route and catch a ball, so they're eligible. However, sometimes they stay back to protect the quarterback. If you're a Swiftie, you might know a little bit about this because Travis Kelce is a tight end. Now let's talk wide receivers. The main job for a wide receiver is to catch anything that is thrown their way. It's also super important for a wide receiver to have impeccable timing when running these routes and these plays so that if the quarterback needs to throw it, he doesn't even necessarily have to look where he's throwing because he knows the wide receiver is going to be there on time. On any given play, there can be from 1 to 4 wide receivers on the field, just depending on what that play route might need to be. So if that does happen, they have to take a couple other players off of the field because there can only be 11 at a time. Running backs are usually going to be lined up next to the quarterback, depending on the play, and their job is pretty self-explanatory. They run the ball. Running backs are cool because they're sort of responsible for some of the like super rad like football moves that we are used to seeing. And I'll insert some of the stuff that running backs do right here because I feel like even before I knew about football, those were the things that I would see a highlight of and be like, wait, that's awesome. And it was always the running back. So that one's a fun one to watch. And that position can be cool to keep your eye on during a play. Now we are at quarterbacks. Quarterback is a word that I know you've heard. It's a position I know you're familiar with because it's just part of American culture. You just know the word quarterback. You know that they're an important part of the team, but just how important are they? I kind of like to think about quarterbacks as the director of the offense. He is in charge of when the center snaps the ball. He's in charge of handing the ball to the running back. He's in charge of throwing the ball to the wide receiver. Quarterbacks can even change the play if they see that the defense is oriented in a way that they weren't ready for. Quarterbacks are very important for a very good reason. That's why you see them plastered all over ads and commercials and in so many of our lives, even when we weren't asking for it. I know I said we were going to talk about positions in this episode, and we did. Talked about the offense and those positions, which are super important, but defense is also super important. This was a lot of information. You did absolutely incredibly. I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much for watching. Next week, we're going to be talking about defensive positions, special teams, penalties, and challenges. Please leave in the comments a couple of things. 1, if you learned anything this week and what that was. 2, if you feel any more comfortable about football. And 3, who your favorite team is. I can't wait to find out. I am a Steelers fan. Okay, love you. Bye.